Hello Internet Drummers! Today we'll be learning to play Back in Black by AC/DC on the drum set. We'll cover all the parts and all the fills so you can play along with the track note for note if that's your goal. We'll have playing demonstrations here, and also I put up a cover of the song last week so you can check that out if it's helpful for you. The song starts with 8 quarter notes on the hi-hat, so just hit the hi-hat 8 times along with the music. This is not a hard part of the song, I'm just covering it to be a completionist. Now we get into the main groove of the song. The bulk of this is just the basic rock groove. It's probably the first thing you learned on the drum set. We have 8th notes on the hi-hat, we have a kick on 1 and 3, and we have the snare on 2 and 4. That sounds like this. So that right there is 80% of the song. If you can do that, you are well on your way. Sprinkled into the intro and the verse are these little drum fills, which are probably the most iconic drum parts of the song. They all have the same basic structure, but there are 3 variations. Okay, here's this first fill written out, and if you don't read music or you don't read music well enough to decipher this, that's perfectly okay, because the rhythm of the fill matches exactly the rhythm of the guitar riff. Da 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 da. To play this fill, start a normal measure of the groove, and when you get to beat 2, your first snare drum note, just play snare hat, snare hat, snare hat, snare snare. And we're going to add a kick drum with each of the hi-hats and just match the rhythm of the guitar riff. The only other thing to add is to open the hi-hat a little bit each time you hit it during the fill part of the measure. Because the kick drum and the open hi-hat are played together, your feet will actually move opposite of each other during this part. So when one is up, the other one will be down. It's much like driving a manual transmission car, assuming anybody does that anymore. We put the whole fill together, and that sounds like this. So that's the first variation. The second variation of this fill uses the exact same concept and the exact same rhythm, except it adds a crash cymbal. So you have snare hat, snare crash, snare crash, snare crash. That sounds like this. That variation is only played one time in the whole song, and that's here at the end of the intro. So here's the entire intro from start to finish. Now we get to the verse. That's the part where the singing starts. The beginning of the verse is exactly like the intro. It uses the same beat and the exact same fill. That's variation 1. At the end of the verse, we have our third variation of this fill, and all we're doing is adding a snare drum to the end. So we have snare hat, snare hat, snare hat, snare, snare, snare. Slowly, that sounds like this. And now at the speed of the song. After the verse comes the chorus. The beat is basically the same. It's the standard rock groove, except there is a crash cymbal at the beginning of each measure. You play that 6 times, and then on the 7th measure, we're going to add 2 extra bass drum notes, one on the end of 3 and one on the end of 4. That sounds like this. So we have our 6 bars of basic rock groove with the crash cymbal. We have our 7th bar with our 2 extra bass drum notes. And then the 8th and final measure of the chorus, we have 3 crash cymbals that line up with the words back in black. We have a rest on beat 3, and we have a flam on beat 4. So that's back in black, rest, flam. Let's play it on the drum set. Okay, here's the whole chorus. After the first chorus, we have another verse, and the second verse is identical to the first verse, at least in terms of the drum part. It's the same groove and the exact same fills. After that verse, we have the second chorus, and that chorus is again almost identical to the first chorus. The only difference is in that 7th bar where we were playing 2 extra bass drum notes. We're not going to play the one on the and of 3. So instead of this, like we played the first time, we play this. Other than that tiny difference, the choruses are the same. That brings us to the first guitar solo of the song, and the drum part for this section is actually a 4-bar pattern. The first bar is the basic rock groove with a crash at the beginning, just like we played during the chorus. The second bar is the basic rock groove without a crash, just like we play during the verse. And the third bar is once again the basic rock groove with a crash at the beginning, again just like the chorus. The fourth bar is the one that's new. Here it is written out. You can see we have a crash on the and of 2, a crash on beat 3, and a crash on the and of 4. So that sounds like this. If reading and counting are not your forte, that's absolutely fine. Once again, the drum part lines up perfectly with the rhythm guitar part. The crashes come with the guitar hits, so you can use that for guidance. That whole 4-bar pattern sounds like this. We play that 4-bar pattern 3 times, and then the 4th time we would play it, it starts the same. We have the rock groove with a crash at the beginning, but on the second bar, we're going to add a kick drum on the and of beat 4 to take us into a crash at the beginning of the 3rd measure. We're going to play this kick crash motif 4 times total before the guitar solo ends with another set of the back in black crashes. So here's the last 4 bars of the guitar solo section. Now we have what is maybe the weirdest measure in the whole piece. It's the first bar of the 3rd chorus. It starts with a snare drum that has grace notes in front of it. So you're just going to play a drag with one hand and then a loud accented snare with the other hand, like this. That snare hit sets up another set of the back in black crashes, though this time they're a little offset. You can still sing the words back in black to get the rhythm to this figure, or you can just listen to the guitar part. Once again, the rhythm guitar and the crashes line up perfectly. This measure is the one that trips up my students the most, so make sure you practice the end of the guitar solo going into this chorus as many times as you need to and as slowly as you need to. Now besides that one weird measure, the rest of the third chorus is just like the first two. The fill in bar 7 is a little different. There's kick drum on 3 and flams on the snare on 4 and. That sounds like this. Make sure you get that one down. It's not that hard, but it will reappear in the fourth chorus. Before we get to that fourth chorus, we have the guitar breakdown part, or whatever you want to call this. It's an 8-bar section, just like the verse and the chorus. In the first bar, we hit a crash on beat 1, and then we rest until the and of 4, where we have a snare hit that sends us into a crash at the beginning of bar 2. The second bar starts with the aforementioned crash, and then there's the back in black crash figure on beats 3 and 4, only this time we are going to put a snare pickup to each crash on the 16th note right before. The next 5 bars are identical. We have snare drums on the quarter notes, so beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have kick drum on 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have crashes on 1, 2, 3, and the and of 4. So on the kit, that looks like this. This one is a little tricky because it's just odd enough that you can't necessarily go on autopilot. So just practice it as slowly as you need to, and eventually you'll get it. The 8th and final bar of this section starts just like the previous 5, but there is a fill that starts on the and of beat 3, and we're just going to play 6 16th notes, 4 on the snare, and then 2 on the toms. That brings us to this fourth chorus. It's exactly like the third chorus that we've already played, except there's an extra snare drum note after the back in black crashes on beat 3. So we have back in black snare, snare. All right, we're in the home stretch. We have a little 2-bar extension here. That's all I can think to call it. It's kind of like the very beginning of the song. But crash on beat 1, then just some quarter note hi-hats, and then beats 3 and 4 of the second bar have this little fill, 3, a 4, and snare, 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 kick. Sounds like this. Okay, the song ends on a second guitar solo that slowly fades out. So we are going to play exactly what we played during the previous guitar solo, that same 4-bar pattern. The third time through that pattern, there is a set of the back in black crashes in the 4th measure. It's really faint on the recording, so listen closely and you'll be able to hear it. It sounds like this. So the recording fades out on a basic rock groove. I'll leave it up to you how you want to translate that into a live setting. Do whatever makes you happy. Okay, that's all for this week. We played all the fills and all the grooves to AC/DC's Back in Black. If you want to see it all put together, you can check out my drum cover of the song that I did last week. If you have any questions about what we went over today or have any other songs you'd like me to teach, mention them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching.